Recording. Great. Hello, everybody. Yakov Darling Khan here again with the next in these in dialogue conversations. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be in conversation with Tim Freke, who is the author of 35 books. And yeah, incredible. 35 books. And just brought out a new book called Soul Story. And we met recently at Charlie, Morley and Jade's wedding, and I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a conversation? So, Tim, really good to see you. Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, very nice to be here. Yeah, my name really is Freke, which is kind of mad growing up with a name like that, but what can you do? And yeah, I've written a lot of books exploring the whole range of different spiritual traditions. And then this last phase, including shamanism, 2 or 3 books on shamanism as well, early on for me. And then in this last phase of my life, it's really been about finding what the essence is for me personally, which I can share with others. So a kind of looking for a new form of spirituality for the 21st century, which is compatible and understands all of these ancient roots. Because what marks us out at the moment is that all of this is available to us for the first time in history. And so it's for me as an eclectic of wanting to pull it together and then reshape it for now in a way that it's got heart, but which is also intellectually robust, because I'm a philosopher. So I want everything.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. I mean, I know for many years in our work, because our work was rooted in ecstatic dance, we were teaching, basically dance first, think later. And there's value in that. And but at the same time, we recognized after some time that we could dance to quite a free place, and the mind might become still for a while, and you'd be on holiday from the internal yappity internal dialogue. But of course, the minute we stopped dancing, that would be back there. And the basic story that we were telling about who we are and what life is hadn't changed. And so we recognized after a few years how important it is to engage the mind and the intellect. And it's very much part of spiritual practice. I know in my family tradition, the Jewish tradition, if you leave out either the body or the heart or the mind, you don't get the light of the soul.
There you go. For me, that's it. It's like that we haven't got something by mistake. So getting stuck in your mind, disaster, and also unpleasant. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it in itself is a bad thing. I have this word which I invented because I needed one, which I call paralogical thinking, which is really to think in opposites, in paradox. So you have both. So is it the head or is it the heart? A lot of people are like, oh, leave the head, go into the heart. Yeah. If you do that, it will be disastrous for you. If you stop thinking, you don't become enlightened, you become stupid. Yes. So it's about how you think. If you just think the same things over and over again and you're anxious, thinking, it seems to me when I look at it, thinking's just imagining talking to yourself. That's all it is. So if I'm here with you here and I'm talking rubbish, it'll be a bit boring for you and everyone else. But if I can say something, hopefully, which is interesting, that will be of value. And everyone knows that the mind can give you insight or it can give you anxiety. So we need to engage with it, like you said, to tell a deeper story about our lives, because we can't avoid telling a story. That's impossible.
Exactly. Story is the key, isn't it? I one of my very first teachers talked to us about, listen, you're a human being. You are going to tell a story about what's happening here. And you may as well find a story that dignifies you, empowers you, gives you a sense of purpose, meaning, a love of life, so that when you wake up in the morning, if you're telling that kind of story, you can wake up ready to engage the day, rather than if you're telling a story of how awful and terrible everything is and how awful and terrible I am and how awful and terrible you are, then, inevitably we meet that much more in our life. And so the story is vital to our perception.
Yep. And at the depth of all of these mystical traditions, as I found it to be in shamanism, is that if you go to the depths of your being, there's one of us. It's all one. Everything is one. So there's a great revelation in that. But once you've got that, and of course you can never get it forever, you need to keep going deeper and deeper. But once you've got that, the interesting bit is all of the variation, or the color, all of the individuality. And really, in a way, what makes me Tim and you Yakov is our story. It's like I'm living the adventure of Tim. And when we meet, it's like, how's your adventure doing? Oh, it's going badly here, going well here. And I'm facing this now. And yesterday I went through this. And that's what we are. And through that, we're being shaped into individuals. So that's really, really important. And to make the most of that life journey, like you said earlier, use everything. Use your mind, use your heart, use your intuition, use your rationality, your body, of course, the whole lot.
I love that sense of the ongoing engagedness, that a story isn't fixed, like a story is alive. And a good story is very alive. It evolves as we evolve. And I know for sure, the deeper I go in my life, it's not like there aren't obstacles, there aren't challenges, there aren't difficulties. There really are, genuinely. And the thing is that what changes is the approach to those difficulties, rather than kind of going, oh God, trying to pull my hair out if I had any. What can you do? This is terrible, this is a disaster. Just recognizing the cycles of how things happen, that we come up against. In shamanism, we often talk about the challenges in life being our allies. They're the obstacles that focus our intention, that help us to get clear about what really matters, that help us to adjust our course if necessary. And so again, it's not just a story about who we are, it's a story about what's happening, and how we, in our work, we talk a lot about, you can't choose what life brings you, but you can choose how to dance with it. What story you tell about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm, as somebody who calls himself as a philosopher, for want of a better title, that's what I write, that's what I studied. It feels like doubt is a really great thing, because you go through it. When I was younger, I think I wanted to be right. Now I love nothing more than being wrong, because the minute I'm wrong, the whole world changes and I find something new. And so I'm constantly looking for, how can I understand this deeper? How are my ideas limiting me? How can I see this in a new way so that it comes to life with greater depth? And what I love doing with my books and my retreats and all the things I do, which is kind of actually quite shamanic, and it's different in a way, not traditionally, but it has that kind of raw energy to it, which I love, is to see people go, whoa, and just find themselves literally in a different reality because they're perceiving it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And seeing that waking up that happens, and the effervescence, the love of being, which can arise when that happens.
We were with our apprentices yesterday, and we had a closing circle where everyone just has 90 seconds to really speak, like, essential. What do I want to say from the heart? And it was so extraordinary. And Susanna, my wife, said this beautiful thing at the end. She said, "Thank you so much for revealing yourselves to us, and just as you are." Not trying to be right, as you said, or not trying to be beautiful, or trying to be a good dancer, or trying to be very shamanic, or anything, but just to be really, truly in what's happening and what's true for you now. It's so heart-opening. It's so expansive. It's so challenging in a beautiful way when people do that. And we felt so proud of them, and the depth and the capacity, not just to speak, but to listen as well. And my heart was kind of blown to pieces, as it very often is in those situations. So Tim, just tell us a little bit more about your new book, because I'm really fascinated about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've got your great book, which I'm about to launch into. So thank you for that. It looks fantastic. And this one, I'll put them alongside each other. And this one's my new book, Soul Story. which is literally just come out. I've done 35 books. In my own estimation, it's by far my most important book, because it's a total worldview. And my last book was all about awakening and practical book. This book is a philosophy book, for sure. So it's for people who really get attracted to that. But it's a whole new way of seeing reality. So what's the essence of it? The essence is that we can unite our modern scientific knowledge with traditional perennial spiritual wisdom, but we can only unite them genuinely if they're both willing to see things differently. And the way that I'm suggesting that we need to understand this is by taking the evolutionary cosmology of science, which is magnificent, and actually seeing that it can also help us understand the areas traditionally explored by spirituality. So we've got this incredible cosmology, 13.8 billion years of evolution from the Big Bang, moment zero, the beginning of time, from hydrogen to you and me here talking. And in that process, we've gone through a period which science investigates of the evolution of matter, the physical cosmos, and then much shorter, the evolution of life from very basic forms to complex forms. But at some point in that process, we see the evolution of psyche or soul, the mind, the imagination, the place which you and I are communicating in now, where we're sharing ideas from. It's not in space. It's not made of matter, but it's very real. It's the place of dreams. And it's the place which, as a shaman, you know extremely well. You find out there's a whole universe in the imagination, in the world of the soul. Now, science, of course, comes up to that and goes, oh, well, that's a byproduct of the brain, and it's just biology. That doesn't work for all sorts of reasons. So what I'm suggesting is, look, we just need to understand that the evolutionary process has gone through three phases: matter, life, and soul. Now, the big change for traditional spirituality is it's taking the world of soul, the world of the shaman, the world of the after-death states, and it's saying, consider the possibility that that's not eternal, that has also evolved as the whole of evolution has evolved, and that rather than it being some permanent background state from which we've fallen into this state, it's actually the flowering of the evolutionary process that is coming. And this world that we explore of images is the product of the 13.8 billion years of evolution.
That's I particularly that last thing about we're not harking back to a Garden of Eden state. We're not looking for something that was, and how wonderful it was when we were all living in communities, and how wonderful it was when we were all close to the earth. No, we're looking for the coming together of all that's been learned in all of these different traditions. It's a little bit like our friends in the Amazon, the Jaguar and the Zapara people, who talk very, very strongly about the only way that humanity is going to get through this crisis, challenge, opportunity time and evolve is through bringing together the best of what we've all learned. Yeah. Like everything, every philosophy or every story or every culture, every tradition, every religion, every race, every way of thought has a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And this idea that it's the flowering, it's the evolution of something that's now, rather than, we had this extraordinary Atlantean dreamscape however long ago that we need to get back to. No, this is a new thing.
It's much more optimistic. I mean, the traditional spiritual view pretty much universally involves a fall. We've got lost in an illusion. We've made a mistake. Not so much in the very ancient traditions, but certainly in the big spiritual traditions. So essentially, your humanity is a problem. Your individuality is a problem. You've got to get rid of it. You've got an ego, which is your body can be a problem. Pleasure's a problem. All of that. Get rid of it. And then you can get back to this. It's very negative, but it's got something deep with it. And for me, if we can see that the whole process, that we're moving from the less emergent, from the less developed to the more developed. Now, not in a linear way. And we lose things. And one of the great things about going back to older cultures is you see, oh, we lost that. A bit like as an adult, when I see younger people, I can go, oh, I'm losing something they had. I don't want to lose that. Can you teach me that again so I don't forget?
Very true.
And we don't need to see one as better or worse. None of that. We just need to see this
view.
overall journey towards something greater, which we are part of. And then our own lives are full of meaning, because what we're doing is we're leading it forward. And the more consciously we can do that, the better it'll be.
Well, I'm very excited to dive into your book. I've got a few weeks off now, and I actually have time to read somebody else's work, and I'm really looking forward to reading yours and really getting into the detail of this philosophy. And it's very exciting to me to hear how you have brought together all your studies. And you know, we just met very recently, as we said at the beginning, and Susanna and I were talking a lot about how similar our evolution has been. And so very much looking forward to reading that. And I really want to thank you for your work, for your clear thinking, for this offering, and for this conversation. It's been a real pleasure to meet you, and I'm sure the people in our community who haven't yet met you and your work, do dive into that book, and let's talk about these ideas, and let's spread them out a little bit more. And particularly this thing of that you mentioned about something is wrong with me, that we start from something is wrong with me. And yes, there are definitely states that we need to mature through, but they're all necessary. If I think about the states that I've been through in my life, I wouldn't psychically, surgically remove any single one of them, because every single condition has brought me teachings, has brought me real lessons of heart, has brought me something towards a little bit of humility, these kind of challenges. And so I really want to thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to know you and to meet you. And
well, my friend, I feel exactly the same. I can't wait to read of your adventures in Jaguar in the Body, Butterfly in the Heart. It looks wonderful. Yeah. And I'd just like to leave you with this little thought in response to what you said. Yeah. Because it feels to me that if you understand existence as evolving, and if you understand your own soul as evolving, then you will always be moving, hopefully, from a lesser state to a greater state. And that will always be about looking at yourself and going, oh, I've seen something which could be better. Yeah. And but that ceases to be something wrong with me. That becomes, oh, great, I can move forward. And that's a completely different way of experiencing the challenges that we face, like you said, within us and around us as allies on that challenging allies, but allies on that evolutionary journey. And then we have a chance to fall in love with the life process.
Absolutely.
And engage with it.
I like that very much, that actually there's this sense of evolving, because I think one of the reactions that we can have to there's something wrong with me is that everything's equal and everything's the same and there is no better state, you know, everything's okay. And which is it's like taking your palette of colors and just pouring them all in together, which is a fun thing to do, but you end up with a kind of smudgy, homogeneous mess. You know, actually, the fact that, yes, if we practice, if we're willing to open, if we're willing to be wrong, if we're willing to keep in that sense of beginner mind, learning, I want to learn, then we will evolve and we will improve, and our capacity to access our heart, our capacity to see and meet one another, our capacity to meet difference in a creative way, and not just to tolerate diversity but to celebrate it fully, will grow. And I love the optimism of your philosophy, and I'm really loving getting to know you and looking forward to much more over the years to come. So Tim Freke, thank you very much for this time together. And thank you all for watching this, and I'll be letting you know when the next In Dialogue session is out. So for now, wherever you are, Hope you are enjoying being wrong and evolving. Take care. Bye for now.